So the nature of alchemy is it is inclusive. It's the work of integration. And integration, my definition of integration is it's only heaven because everybody's there. It's only heaven because everybody's there, right? Which is a very difficult thing if you just sit with that. Because there's a lot of people we want to leave out, right? And so the nature of most spiritual journeys are that they exclude the most important people in our task of opening the portal. They automatically exclude them. They exclude the ascended masters, which are those people that are guaranteed to push our buttons in the right place. Right? It usually, the spiritual journey excludes our family. And our family are the ascended masters of button pushing. They know where the buttons are, and they are devoted to their task. Absolutely devoted. Right? We are not yet tuned into what our task is. And so, because we don't know how to integrate that part of the journey, what we normally do is we turn away from them and we exclude them. But by doing so, you can't really exclude them because they'll pop up in different forms. But by excluding them, we do not have an awareness of the different attributes. There's different attributes to opening and maintaining a portal. Very important attributes. And these attributes we have already it's through our cultures, through our experiences here on earth. They're always shining back at us. And we've already mentioned them, right? We have the vibrational, the emotional, the mental, and the physical. When we get into more of our indigenous self, we can say air, water, fire, and earth. These are the elements. And these are very important elements because they're also the same resonances that are brought up by the family. A family is a structure that enables us to perceive the condition of this elemental makeup in our portal makeup. So in the family, the only cross you will ever really have to bear is this family. That's the cross, right? And the family has also the vibrational, the physical, the emotional, and the mental, the four aspects of the portal, which is the father, the mother, the sister, and the brother. Those are the four aspects that make up the family. And of course, the child in the center, right? And the alchemist is the child. The intent of the alchemist is to become as the child again. And as we go on, we'll see what that really means. The child stands in the center. You will not find any sacred text that says, and God made the adults. All right? Adults were manufactured by children. They weren't created, they were manufactured. All right? And so the adult aspect of our awareness is the doer aspect of our awareness that has come out of the emotional signature. The child is created in the image. And what that means is within the child's makeup, it has everything self-contained. In other words, every portal is completely self-sufficient. You don't have someone that's going to complete you. Oh, I found the person, they're going to be my other half, they'll complete me. You don't even have a soul mate. I mean, these are stories we tell ourselves. We might have souls that are mates that have hung around for life after life, but they're not required in order for us to be whole. There's no such thing. Everyone is completely made whole. Made in the image, in other words, that a portal can contain itself. It's self-contained. So the family is a very important part in realizing the condition of various aspects of our portal. Because the family will never lie, right? They will tell us the truth always. is just an ability to look in that mirror and see what it's saying. While we believe the mirror is causing the pimples, we don't have a chance. We'll spend all our time cleaning the mirror. So this part of the work, once I'm able to go in and make adjustments, like we were doing earlier on with my boss, with the general people in my life, and I see that I can go and impact my quality of my experience by adjusting the condition of my own emotional body, then I'm ready to handle the family, right? There's a saying, if you think you're enlightened, go home for Thanksgiving, right? And what that saying says is that most pathways that profess to impart enlightenment are actually full of it, because they don't impact our relationship with our family. And because they don't impact the relationship in the 3D, they're actually all in the mental. They're not actually accomplishing anything. True alchemy transforms the way we relate to our family. In fact, as part of the dismantling process, remember, this journey is about integration, disintegration, right? First of all, when we work with that relationship with ourself, intimacy with myself, when I go home and I work on what's happening with the boss and I'm doing that, and that is the first level of the journey. That's intimacy with myself. And what that does is it's going to dismantle something. I have manufactured a persona from the time I was a child. From the time I started standing still and only having one toe moving, I manufactured an act. I went from presence to pretense. And I manufactured a person that would appear nice, not cause any conflict, get the appreciation I need from elsewhere because I can't give it to myself, and stay safe no matter what, right? Not only did I manufacture that person that is dealing with everyone in the world, but I also have a relationship with that person. I'm relating to it and constantly talking to it, and it's talking to me and saying, oh, you're never going to be good enough. Oh, yes, I am. No, I'm not. This goes on, right? This conversation we have with ourselves. So the first part of the intimacy journey is to dismantle that relationship. We have to break that up. There's got to be a breakup there. Complete breakup of that relationship, right? We have to break that so we can go up. That's what a true breakup is. You break it break the structure so that the awareness can move up. And so that relationship with that false persona that I made has to be dismantled. I can't have a relationship. I've got to break up and it's got to be over, right? It's the same thing with my family, right? My family is a structure made up of my unconscious definition of love. What I have in common with my family, with this group of souls that I'm attracted to and that I'm born into, and that I keep getting born into over and over whether I realize it or not. The reason I get pulled back is because we share something. We share the same dysfunctional definition of what love is. Now, somewhere in the story about Jesus, someone says to him, your mother's calling you. And he says, who's my mother? Who's my mother? And what he's saying is, I already done this work. Right? I don't have that as a family anymore. Because the idea that, you see, this shirt, even this body, this floor that I'm walking on, these boards, that bottle of liquid, all came to me from the earth. All came to me from my mother. Everything I require to maintain myself physically, to nurture myself physically while I go through my evolution is given to me by my mother. I cannot expect one woman to play that role. It's unfair. And so whoever's playing that role, part of the journey is to release that role by becoming that for myself, right? So we have the 4 attributes. We have the father, the mother, the sister, the brother. And they're the vibrational, the mental, the physical, and the emotional. And by looking at them, we can see the state of the attributes within us, right? So before we realize that, if we're an alchemist, there is usually a thread that we can see about ourselves in the world, because an alchemist isn't made. An alchemist is born. You can't just take someone and start talking to them about this work if they not have the capacity for it. They won't know what you're talking about. They'll actually find it offensive, right? If I went and I told my brother, if my brother had to sit through this, he'd like, this is boring, dude. I want to go and do something else, right? Because they don't have the wiring for it. Because his job is different. His job is over there. My job is over here, right? And an alchemist is born, and the way an alchemist is born is that an alchemist comes in the world with very well-developed felt perception. Very well-developed felt perception. And when an alchemist enters the world and enters this family unit, the first thing is they find it really uncomfortable. Because when you enter this world, a world that has no feeling, that does not base anything on feeling, although it's full of fear, anger, and grief, it's full of emotional drama, but no dharma, right? When you enter that world and you have fully developed felt perception, it's very uncomfortable. You look at other people and you see them behaving in a really strange way. They're saying yes when they mean no. And you're going like, this is bizarre, right? That's why it's very weird for like a Westerner to go into an indigenous community and to hang out. The indigenous people in the community go, this person is very freaky, hey? And they'll say amongst themselves, because here it's saying one thing, there it's saying another. They're saying this, but actually they mean that. Can't actually connect. Very weird, you go, huh? And so an alchemist born into a family, that's the experience they have, right? And so one of the questions that an alchemist may ask as a child is, was I adopted and nobody told me, right? Is this maybe not my family? Because these people are pretty freaky, right? Either I'm on the wrong planet or the aliens have invaded, right? Something has happened. And an alchemist, usually what they do is, as soon as they can, as they are big enough and strong enough, and they don't even wait till they have enough money, they run from the home, right? Right? And they run off and they look for their family. They go, I've got to find my real family because these people are really wacko, right? And they'll go around, and what they'll do is they'll find people that are resonating here in the kitchen, metaphysics, and go, there's my family, the Reiki people. The aromatherapy people, that's my family, they speak my language. The channeling people, yeah, I can deal with channeling because that, right? And so resonate, because they'll resonate to the kitchen work, because you've got to do the kitchen work. And so go into the kitchen and do the kitchen work and learn all this metaphysics, which is very necessary. And then, okay, now I've figured it all out. Now I know what's wrong with them all. Now I'm going to go home and fix everybody, right? So come home and go, okay, I've arrived home, I know what's wrong with you all, and I'm here to fix you all, right? That's the Thanksgiving dinner that doesn't go so well, right? Because they go, there's nothing wrong with us. You just need to get a life, right? You need to just fit in, right? And get on with it. Get over it, and just get on with it. Because that's what we do, right? And so then the alchemist will leave again, and only from that point do they have an opportunity of really entering their work. Because the family is always going to do their work. The family is devoted to their work. And their work is to reflect the condition of the portal, to reflect the different aspects of the dysfunctional definition of the vibrational as represented by that family unit. Right? And this is what it looks like. The Father, we call it the Father, and we call God the Father because we assume that God is like really far away, the farthest thing away in the world, so we call it the Father, right? So the vibrational and the Father are one element, and they represent guidance. And that's why we always go to God for guidance. We go like, help me, like tell me what to do, right? And so we go to the father for guidance. The mother is about matter, nurturing, about nurturing myself when I'm here in this world. And that's why the mother, the first role that she plays is to nurture the child. The brother is about experience. The brother is really about the lesson, the teaching. It's the mental. It's about accepting my life experience as my teaching. And until I accept my life experience as my teaching, I'll be in dissonance with my brother. The sister is directly about the emotional. The sister is about this, taking responsibility for that part of my being. So when I look at my family, right, and I look at my father, if there is dissonance there, right, that goes on with my father, whether my father is in this world or not, that dissonance is related to where I'm not prepared to embrace my own inner guidance. That's related to where I think someone else in the world is going to tell me what to do and how to do it. Where I'm going to find a book that's going to tell me. Where I'm going to find a teacher that I can follow. Where I can just find a daddy somewhere, right? And I'll marry one if I have to, but I'll find the daddy, right? I will follow somebody. And until that is resolved, in other words, until I become that for myself, there will be dissonance in that field related to the father. The mother is related to nurturing. So while I require someone else to validate my experience in order for it to be valid, I'm going to be in dissonance with my mother. Until I can nurture myself, right? Especially on a very emotional level. So the example I always love to give of this is my own experience with my mother. So in 1992, I ran away. I ran from South Africa to America. And I was gone for a long time. I went back for the first time in 2001. And while I was gone, I was doing all sorts of stuff because I was doing this journey, immense amount of that journey. Right? This journey, the emotional journey for most of us really only began in 1999. If we look at our lives, 1999, bam, something happened. We really started taking note of our emotional content. So in 2001, I go home. I have to go home now to see my family. And now I've done all this metaphysical work, let me go home and save everybody, right? So I went home and my mother invited me over for lunch, right? And so we're sitting there, and she asks the question, the big setup, right? Mm-hmm. So what have you been doing all this time? Right? And of course I fall for it, right? And I start to give my speech. Aromatherapy, sound therapy, light therapy, extraction of consciousness from a time-based paradigm, right? Antivirus software for time-based continuum, right? Fire chief in the Native American church, right? Peyote ceremonies, right? All of this stuff. And I probably went on for about an hour and a half, right? And when I was done, she just sat quietly and listened, right? And when I was done, she said, "Oh, so you've not been doing much with your life since you've been..." So of course, I died in that moment. It was an absolute death for me. It's like someone took someone put a pin into the thing, right? And I realized on reflection of that moment that my life wasn't valid unless someone told me it was. Whenever something good happened, I had to tell somebody. Whenever something bad happened, I had to tell somebody. Because if I didn't, it wasn't valid, right? I couldn't validate myself in any way. I never told myself anything. I realized I never told myself anything. And so what I did from that point, I asked, what is the tool that can teach me how to do this? Because I can't use another human being. Because if I use another human being to assist me with this, I'm going to become reliant on them for, again, validating me, right? And then I realized that the most powerful tool we have, we look in every day, right? In fact, every bathroom has one, a mirror. And everyone goes in front of the mirror every single day. But very few of us actually look into the mirror And less of us actually talk to it, because we're told talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. Well, I'm telling you, not talking to yourself is a sign of insanity. It's a sign of insanity. So what I started doing was talking to myself. I realized that when I looked in the mirror, there is a part of me that doesn't realize that the person looking back is me. It just sees another person looking at me. And it often sees that person looking at me. Every day that person looks at me and never talks to me, never says anything supportive to me, never encourages me, never confides in me, nothing. They're giving me the cold shoulder, and they've been doing it for like how many years, right? And so I decided to develop a relationship with that person. And so when something good would happen, I go to the mirror and go, wow, dude, right? Something bad happens, don't worry, I'll take care of it, right? Even today, I still use that technique. So after my presentation, sometime I'll end up alone in the bathroom in front of a mirror, and I'll go to the mirror and go, you're the man. You are the man. Dude, that insight that came, wow, I never heard that one like that before. That is pretty brilliant. You're a master at that, right? Because if I don't do that for myself, I will unconsciously bring about behavior to cause you to do it for me. I will, and if things are going wrong, I also go to the mirror. I go to the mirror and go, messed up here. Oh, this is a mess. But don't worry, I'll take care of it. You know that I'm always here, I'll take care of it. I always take care of it. There's nothing to worry about. Like, I'll take it, right? And so in that way, I don't have to manifest drama to get you to take care of it, right? And that's about learning to nurture myself. And so I did an immense amount of work. I was in South Africa for nearly 4 years, developing the presence process with many South Africans. And 3 years into being there, I learned when I was there, after that lunch with my mother, not to talk to her about my work. I learned the meaning of discernment. Discernment is not lying to your mother. You just don't have to tell her everything, right? She doesn't want to know everything. That's the truth. So I didn't talk to her about my work because she doesn't have a point of reference for my work, right? Talking to her about my work is just trying to get validation. I go talk to the mirror about my work if I need to talk to somebody, right? Because the mirror is the only one who knows what I'm doing anyway. No one else has a clue what the hell I'm up to, except the mirror, right? So I talk to the mirror. But the strange thing was, I did this in self-nurturing work. Really, I spent almost 3 years by myself. I purposely eliminated any relationships with anyone. I was on my own. I did my work facilitation during the day. I spent the time. I took myself out to dinner. I took myself to the movies. I bought myself flowers. When I felt lonely, I sat and comforted myself. And I sat with myself, and after 3 years, I became my best friend, right? And no one's going to leave the neighborhood now because I'm here, right? So in that time, by the time I became my best friend on that level, my relationship, the way of relating with my mother had transformed. I no longer expected her to play the role of mother. I was mothering myself. She became almost like a sister, a friend. We'd go and hang out, go and shop, go to the movies, right? Phone and chat to each other, but there was no sticky, needy, wanty stuff there, right? And I suddenly realized that I had a really awesome mother. Even though at one point of my life, I was so angry at this woman. I used to fall asleep on the couch every time I went to visit her because I couldn't stay conscious in all that rage, right? I got to a point where I realized what an awesome woman this was, and that I wouldn't want to change a thing about her. And I'm so glad I didn't try, because she's perfect the way she is. And when I got to that place, she picked up the phone and phoned me and said, I want to do the process, right? Because some of her friends had done it and she'd seen what it was doing for them. And by that time, I could facilitate her through it without myself wanting to like fix her of anything, right? So that to me was a great demonstration of this work with the family. And so I began really consciously working with the rest of my family, working with my father. You know, my father had passed on. My father committed suicide before I turned 5. So I had to work with that too, right? Working with my brother, who's so different from me, right? I couldn't take being around my brother. I just couldn't figure him out. He was so different from me. until I realized what a remarkable being this was, and how he really taught me that I had to stay with, that my experience was valid whether he was copying it or not. Whether he was, my experience was my teaching. It's the same with my sisters. What do I need to heal? Your sisters will always show you your core issues. Your sisters will show you where you're not taking responsibility for this. The brother will show you where we're not taking our life experience as our teaching. One of the greatest misinterpretations that has been cast upon us was the interpretation from, I am the light, I am the way, none come to the Father but through me. That has messed so many people up. That has invalidated so many lives. And that's the teaching of the brother, right? Because Jesus is the brother. Jesus is the teacher, the brother, the mental plane. And is not saying that my experience, is saying, if he was speaking it, he would say, my experience is the light. My experience is the way. I cannot enter the vibrational realm unless I move through the parameter of my own experience. My experience as it unfolds is the straight and narrow. Not copy mine, have yours. Yours is divinely given to you. Each human being's experience is tailored specifically for the requirements of their portal. No two are alike. You cannot copy anyone else's. You can't even use someone else's as a teaching. The only teaching that is of use is if they take the insights from the experience and use them to steer you into your experience. You must embrace your experience as 100% truth. If you don't, you won't allow other people to have their experience. If I do not see my experience as 100% valid, how can I see yours? And then I'm going to keep trying to change what you're up to. Why do you think the wars on the planet are taking place here between brother and brother? Because the majority of human beings, because of religious indoctrination, have invalidated their own experience. And because they validate their own experience, they invalidate their brothers. And so brother goes to war with brother. Brother is at war with brother because of that. What is the war about? The war is, you shall have the experience I tell you to have. And if you don't, I'll come in there and mess with you. I'll come in there and kill a lot of you until you have the experience I tell you to have. Because I cannot accept mine, I'm not going to allow you to have yours. That's what that's about there. The whole pharmaceutical industry is happening because of that. Lack of not taking responsibility for my own emotional condition. So when we look at the family, this is just to explain to you the parameters of the portal. But you don't even have to know any of this in order to do the work, right? All you have to do is bring up the members of your family or the aspects of your portal. So for example, bring up your father. Just awareness of your father. And what's the feeling? You don't even have to name it. And where do you feel that? Whether you see it as good or bad. Where do you feel that? And listen to it. Whatever that resonance is, that's the nutrition required to open up the guidance, to the internal guidance. Bring up the resonance of your mother. When you bring up the word mother, what is the feeling that comes up? You don't have to name it, just feel it. Where is it in the body? And allow it to be there. See, we have manufactured relationships too. We've manufactured, for example, many of us manufacture a relationship with God, with whatever God is. Like, me and God are like this, right? We're like this. Can't stand my father at home. Can't sit anywhere near him. Can't stand, but me and God are like this. It's the same as saying, me and Gaia, like me and Mother Earth, But I cannot talk to my mother at home on the phone. Can't stand my mother. But me and Mother Earth, we're just like, right? Because they're the same relationship. My relationship with what God is actually this resonance when I bring up my Father. That's the authentic. The relationship with the earth, being here in this physical, when I bring up the resonance of my mother, that's the authentic, not the manufactured one. Not the one I manufacture as a reaction to my life, but the one that really is there, of the portal. It's the same with the sister and brother. We don't even have to have a sister and brother. The closest male and female to us will fulfill those roles. And our mother and father doesn't have to be around anymore. We'll marry them. It's very simple. We can only marry someone who shares the same definition of love as our family. We can only marry our parents. It's not possible not to. We just can't see it because we're physically transfixed. We see the form in front of us. We don't see the emotional signature we're going for. Our definition of love. And our definition of love, remember, is installed to us through this experience. By the time we're 7 years old, we already have our definition of love installed. And it's not love, it's a definition of love. In fact, it's a dysfunctional definition of love. Whatever the sum of those feelings are, the biggest impacts in our felt experience are, by the time we're 7, that is what we equate with love. That's what we equate with love. So we don't have to have a brother and sister. You can bring up your brother, which is either you have a brother or brothers, or you have a close male friend. And bring up the resonance of brother and see what that feeling is. And likewise for the sister. You can bring up the resonance of sister. Or my closest female friend. The same age, similar age as me. And what's that resonance? And you'll find when the sister shows up, when you're doing the presence process, the sister shows up from session 7 onwards. She's going to show up. She's going to show up. Because she's directly related to this, to the emotional, which is where we're going to in this work. So it's not about understanding any of this. It's about realizing that the family work is absolutely crucial. It's very important. What will happen here is once I digest the resonances brought up by the family, my family is too going to dismantle. It's not my true family. We're all family. If love is what keeps a family together, then we're all family. What keeps this family together is dysfunction. A shared unconscious definition of love. And this family will be released through this work. They won't have to reflect these things back to us when we take care of the emotional signature. They won't have to. And I've seen it in myself, and I've seen it in many people who do this work, that you can eventually go home and be at peace in that environment. There is no button pushing because that work is done. And there is no pull and push and sticky, and you can be free. You're free of that. And everyone starts playing the role of, everyone is the family. We're all children. We're all children of one parent, of a father and a mother. We already all have a mother and father. And it's aligning. We already have brothers and sisters. This family unit is really about opening a portal that has been blocked. And this dysfunctional definition of love has been passed from generation to generation to generation until a point that there is enough awareness to impact it. And that's what's extraordinary about being alive in the world today. What's extraordinary is that my parents didn't have any of this going on for them. They lived here pretty much. It's only in the recent generation that we're kind of sinking into there, and then now we have this access. Didn't even have the capacity. Just get on with it. Just get on with it. And the way that emotional signature manifests as you go further and further back into the generations, it gets darker and darker and darker. It's a rough emotional signature, and it's been carried to this moment. They have carried it to this point because now we can integrate it. And their job has been to carry it to this point. Our job in that situation is to integrate it. It's not my mother, father, sister, or brother's job to do this work. Although they can. Sometimes there's more than one in the family that arise to it. But normally it's just one. And what we want to do is get the whole family involved. But actually they are already involved. We've just got to see what the level of their involvement is. They are mirrors. And they will show us. The family will not lie. It doesn't matter what the story is we tell ourselves. It doesn't matter. The family won't lie. They are going to show the emotional signature carried by the family to the alchemist. And they will keep showing it until it's integrated. Until it's integrated. And while we still think on any level that any of this has to change, these, and not this, then we're still stuck in the story. We're still stuck in the physical mental. And that's why this work becomes very challenging at this point, and that's why this work is really it's only possible to really approach this part of the work when I've done a certain amount of this. When I actually see that my emotional is the causal point and that I have a capacity to transform it. Because until I see that truly, through experience, not through mentally, there's no ways I can go and look at some of the stuff I've got to take care of in my family. Because we have brought some intense emotional signatures into this experience. Very, very intense. And then if I don't realize I have a capacity to transform them, that I have alchemical capacities, I will push those out towards the family. I'll go, I can't deal with this. Right? So it's also about, the important thing about this work is to realize where we are in it. If you haven't really done much of this work yet on your own, you don't rush in and try and take care of the family stuff. It'll be there anyway. It's always going to be there until it's taken care of. But the very important thing about the work is to be where we are. In fact, every day when we wake up, the work is brought to us where we are. In other words, whatever, like in the last week, right? For all of us, in the last week, we had an upset of some sort. It was brought to us. Something was there. Right? That's the gift. That's a sacred gift. Right? Did we spit it out? Did we digest it? So if you think about whatever that upset is, whatever that thing is, and you go, what is that feeling? And where do I feel that in my body? And can I allow myself to be with it? And just be with it so that it can begin to digest. So I can get the nutrition out of it. Yum, yum. Good food. Let's take about 5 or 10 minutes out.
Could you write your name on this piece of paper? I want to put it in my book. You signed my book, The Parsi Process, and a friend of mine is borrowing the other one, so I didn't bring it. I want to have time to pick it up anyway. And so I thought I would just have your name.
Frank.
Right, right. So I could stick this in the book. If you, I mean, you know, if you don't mind.
Spell your name again.
Valerie, Valerie. Thank you.
V-A-L.
E-R-I-E. Have you gone in the lake?
No, I haven't.
Oh, very nice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thanks a lot.